Hello, my name is Crystal, and today we're explaining the comprehensive crime networks of Sasaengs. Now, a lot of people, upon the news about Namjoon's story, about how there's a worker from a company basically taking information from his phone and then selling that information and leaking that private information, upon that story, a lot of people show surprise when talking about Sasaengs and how expansive their networks are. Now, Sasaengs, they are essentially engaging in illegal activity, and everything that they do is indeed a crime. So please do not get involved with them. Sasaengs is a Korean word which means stalker fan, but really they're not fans at all, they're more stalkers. So in today's video, I'm going to give more of a comprehensive look of how Sasaengs work and how they obtain illegal information. One of the primary ways that they obtain this information is becoming staff and getting hired into the actual company that a K-pop idol is in. For BTS specifically, there have been instances where Sasaengs have become like their makeup artists or some type of staff and have leaked information. Sasaengs might also get a job or use their connections from someone at a credit card company or a phone company or a flight company, and then they use that information to access info about BTS, and then they sell or they share it. In addition to occupational ways of obtaining information, Sasaengs also buy information online from social media from other Sasaengs. Another way that they obtain information is by stalking staff and behind-the-scenes crew of BTS. A lot of these people around BTS are also targeted and stalked to obtain information. More often than not, Sasaengs use social engineering to follow the private social media accounts of crew people or acting under the guise of someone else in order to get information from these crew people. And back to the occupation part of it as well, sometimes Sasaengs also get jobs in the music industry or journalism to access information before an event or getting exclusive access to an event through press passes. A lot of times, if you go back to BTS's 2017 interviews in America or just content from that time, like there's this really popular elevator video where the BTS members are essentially like right there and they're greeting fans that are in an elevator. A lot of the fans in that video are Sasaengs. That's something that's not well known, but I'm sorry to shatter that illusion to you. A lot of the fans in that video that BTS are singing in that video are Sasaengs. And they got to see BTS because they have connections within the industry that allowed them to be there. In addition to accessing all this information, Sasaengs also have global networks of people in different countries to keep constant track of the members. For instance, South Korean Sasaengs communicate with French Sasaengs for fashion shows. And every time BTS come to America, there's an entire network of American Sasaengs across multiple states that talk with each other and communicate in order to stalk them. That's why when, for instance, Jungkook stopped in New York once, actually had Sasaengs following him in the New York airport parking lot. The reason they knew he was coming to New York when that schedule had not been released publicly at all was because of this comprehensive network. And a lot of American Sasaengs especially are connected because they have stalked celebrities previously, or they stalked boy bands previously, such as One Direction. That's why you might see a lot of overlap between One Direction stalkers and a lot of fans who are very active in the One Direction fandom from like 2013 to 2016 time, overlapping with ARMYs, because these people took the stalking that they did for One Direction and then kept stalking another boy band, which is BTS. And a lot of these people already have connections within the industry to people through their One Direction stalking, so then they translate that and use those connections to stalk BTS as well. A lot of this connections and just kind of who do you know when it comes to this type of stalking, because even people I know who work in the industry sometimes hear information about BTS that they do not voluntarily want to know, or they know people who are working with BTS, or they are people who are also submitting campaigns to HYBE to work with BTS. So there's like a total like background thing that's going on that as fans we do not get to see unless you're in the industry themselves. Like the reason I know Sasaengs target the social media accounts of behind the scenes crew because I saw an overlap of people who are following a bunch of BTS makeup artists and their personal social media accounts. And I went looking for that because I was looking for one specific Sasaeng so that I could report them. So it's all connected and behind the scenes types of stuff. There's also this type of Sasaeng that gains social clout through becoming social media influencers. So they might become a merch account, for instance, or they might become an account that goes viral every once in a while for having an airport video or something, and use that clout to connect with people across the world or reach out to industry connections. More and more as we see fandoms grow and them become more public instead of private spaces, we see people taking advantage of fandoms and their numbers and their clout in order to become involved with real life industry things or spaces like journalism or academia or something like that. And that use of social clout is really powerful because it can get people through doors that wouldn't usually be closed to them. And to go in more into detail about how Sasaeng networks work online, on Twitter, it's mostly through DMs and coded tweets. A lot of larger accounts actually get DM'd information and small bits of access by their following, because a lot of times unsuspecting fans or non-malicious individuals will send information to large accounts thinking like, oh, this needs to be shared and like that, but really it shouldn't. So oftentimes large accounts will be messaged or sent airport photos or Sasaeng photos because people will be like, oh, you need to share this because Namjoon's in New York or something, or Jungkook's in France. And people think that's okay to share, but it's not. And that's like an involuntary instance of being sent Sasaeng material. On Instagram specifically, stories get used a lot by Sasaengs for its 24-hour/temporary function to sell information. And Sasaengs on Instagram are all connected through private accounts and mutuals. Their systems and networks are uncrackable in a lot of ways and impossible to see unless you have screenshots from Sasaengs/former Sasaengs or you enter those spaces yourself. But it's not recommended to do that because people will suss you out and then they will not hold back on trying to dox you. And then finally, forums. So for forums, I'm going to make myself extremely clear. A lot of Sasaeng information is not in English. And if you go onto an English forum and you think you found info like, oh, this member is dating this celebrity, blah, 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 it is fake info. It is not real. A lot of these people who are English speakers selling info or supposedly selling info on forums are selling it just to scam you and take your money. Oftentimes they'll price it really high, maybe around $50 to $100, and it is not worth buying. Do not buy it. You should not participate in Sasaeng activities ever, but especially on forums because all of it is fake info. If there are real Sasaengs or info sellers on there, they will move that conversation to DMs. And this is how they find new customers. Often, what info sellers do is that they give you a taste of actual real information. Usually it's something really low-key, like, oh, a member visited this restaurant, or a member is gonna go to this airport, something like that. And then you'll see that it's true, and you're like, oh, I can trust what this person tells me. But no, they're gonna feed you fake info that is going to give you a certain type of narrative, and the aim with that is so that way you get confused on what is real and what is not real from them. And through that, they can manipulate you to give them more money. There's also this big problem with forum websites that because it does not show the post history of a poster, and it also allows people to delete entire posts to where it like basically disappears and it's like it never existed, it's really hard to follow the trail of where these Sasaengs go. Sasaengs might also share pictures and content on forum websites, and it's kind of the only quote-unquote publicly accessible avenue to see Sasaeng content. But a lot of that quote-unquote Sasaeng content is fake. Do not believe it. Do not buy it. You will get scammed. And you should not be seeking out that stuff anyway. And if you are, you are engaging in illegal activity. Do not do that. Think of what the people around you would think if they found out that you were involved in something like that. Do not do that stuff. For Sasaeng information, most of it is locked behind private accounts or it's coded in some type of way with emojis or acronyms. It's important to remember that Sasaengs are concentrated groups of criminals. They are always looking for new people in their network and to get new curious people into becoming Sasaengs to use them for info or money. Do not become one of them. Sasaengs are not your friends. Fan sites are not your friends. Fan sites get information from Sasaengs or their Sasaengs themselves. Fan sites are not your friends. Sasaengs are not friends. Do not get involved with them. Do not talk to them. Do not give them information. And do not try to trick them in any type of way or infiltrate them. These people are involved in actual organized crime networks. It is best to report them to authorities or to report them off of websites. You cannot take them down internally. Do not do that type of stuff. Do not do any type of vigilante work. Do not do anything like that. What I've done in previous fandoms and in Army as a fandom is that I track the networks of scammers and then I report them either to PayPal or whatever transaction website they use that is scamming someone that I know, or that's scamming someone that I know, or if I see someone getting scammed by them. That's how I know all this information because I have worked on reporting them to actual websites. It's important to never get involved into Sasaeng content and to never become a Sasaeng. These people are stalkers. They're not the people you want to hang out with. A lot of them, they have a main person, and then there's people under them, and it's like an abusive relationship. It's so important to not get involved in Sasaengs and to see the extent of their reach and to see how what they do is essentially criminal activity. It is not something that's just fan activity or just stalker activity. Is actual criminal activity. Like sharing private information with other people, like credit card information or travel information, is illegal. There is actual laws that say that it is illegal to share that information with other people. I know people can find leaked information online from a multitude of companies, but it is not appropriate to access that information because it is illegal. You will be fined, you will go to jail, you will go to prison. There are a lot of larger conversations to have of the prison industrial complex, etc., but it is not something you want to be involved in any type of instance. Sasaengs are not good people. Do not be involved with them. And know that they have a larger extent than you actually think and you know when you understand. They are crime networks. And that's what we should call them. They are criminals.